What am I doing? I have no clue. I didn't practice or rehearse or even think I'd be doing it, but there was such a push and demand for, like, you got to play these things for people. And I did, and I mean, literally that's how it started. When I heard the gongs, that was, whoa, like, bowls were life-changing, but the gongs were a whole other level of what is this all about. I'm not a healer, I'm not a sound healer, I'm a musician that plays. If something externally happens from that, that is a bonus. Whether there's 6 people, 60 people, or 600 people, they're all part of the show. Without them, I'm not performing. It's so important that they know that I'm grateful for them being here. I get to do what I love, but they're supporting that. Since I've done that, people are like, man, I was watching you, you were into it. And I am into it, and the more I get into it, the more I move with it, the bigger it gets, sound-wise, the more creative it gets, and it feels so good to move with it. I'm not in control when I'm playing, and it feels so good to let go of that element of, like, I need to control this. So for an hour or two, I am just completely letting go. It's just all like, let's go. Because you were joking, like $35 to come and have your whole life reset, you know, like, all right, that's a pretty good deal, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and it is, you know, like, I believe everything that's happened to me in my life, good or bad, or perceived good or bad, has led to this, as all of our lives have. All of the experiences that we have lead us to where we are right now. How do you explain a life-changing experience in a short conversation to get somebody to, like, come to the show? And that's funny, because that's the thing, like, most people just say, you gotta come with me.
All you need, you. Show up, living. Pay attention, your. Participate. Favorite. La 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 life. La 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 life. Namaste. Welcome to Your Favorite Life. I'm Jeffosaurus Rex, and my goal is to bring you conversations of growth, adventure, and creativity. Hopefully we can shine some light on your path to your favorite life. I'd like to give a shout out to a good friend of mine and the sponsor of this show, Derek Clugston, who's a real estate agent through the Simcoe region and works through Zolo. Derek makes buying and selling your home a smooth and stress-free transition. Thank you, Derek. Today, I made a trip to a place called Sugar Ridge, which is a beautiful and relaxing retreat center in Tay Township. And I had the pleasure of attending 2 very special concerts, also known as Crystal Journeys with David Hickey. I was fortunate to catch up with David between and after the shows, someone who has been performing throughout Canada and the USA for over 20 years with nearly 1,500 shows to date. His concerts are improvised and blend a variety of unique instruments from around the world, with Iranian santoors, gongs, crystal bowls, wind chimes, and the harmonica. The concerts impact everyone differently, and throughout my experience, being a part of 4 different Crystal Journey concerts since the new year, they've always been very resetting, something we're always trying to do: retune, recalibrate. So thank you, David, for doing what you do and loving what you do. Hope you enjoy our conversation with David Hickey and the genesis of Crystal Journeys.
Thanks for letting me share space.
Thanks for letting me into your zone. This is what you've created.
This is the perimeter of my scene.
It probably didn't always look like this, right?
No, early days were mostly bowls and a couple of, you know, little chimes and little tingshaws and things like that. But over time, being exposed to more instruments as people come to the shows and shared what they had. The gongs in particular came about 15 years ago from a trip out west. And I know we're not totally limited on time, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Get into it a bit. But yeah, when I heard the gongs, that was, whoa, like, bowls were life-changing, but the gongs were a whole other level of what is this all about. And just couldn't get enough of them. and was on a, how do I get them? How do I get all of them? And eventually a lot came to me through the manufacturer and through Yamaha Canada. And what you see here now, I've kind of narrowed down the setup to what it is that I'm performing with. So 8 to 10 gongs. At peak, I had about 40 gongs, but I've sold them off. They were sitting in boxes for years, and instruments need to be played. I've added a couple of new ones recently, just as I expand and grow and feel what this needs to keep growing. I added 2 new gongs, a brilliant symphonic gong, which is phenomenal, and then I've actually added another Mars gong, which I already have one, but I just wanted the essence of what that gong brings elementally and frequency-wise and note. So it's evolved into this, and adding the Santours was a huge thing, and learning how to play them and play them right, and respecting the instrument from its culture. I don't play it like the traditional Iranian way would be. I play it, in Western scale, but I've had people of Iranian descent who were, exposed to it as a child through either a parent or a relative, and by all accounts, I'm doing okay. But they didn't kick me out or take the instrument away from me. So and I love them. I love playing them. I absolutely love them. And in the last few years, I've added a harmonica to it, and who would ever have thought that would fit? But in my brain and what I hear, it fits, and people seem to be responding nicely to that added texture to Santour, crystal bowl, harmonica.
Yeah, this whole family, and great introduction.
Oh,
and
don't get me going.
Yeah, no, so I'll just do a quick introduction. We're here at Sugar Retreat Center with David Hickey in tiny Tay Township.
Yeah, near Midland.
Near Midland?
Yeah.
Beautiful retreat center.
Gorgeous. Been playing here since they opened about 15 years ago.
Yeah, we're in this gorgeous, almost dome-like room.
It's a straw bale dome. Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect acoustics. I've said many times, if I could just pick this building up and transport it with me to wherever I go, this is the ultimate place for me to play in terms of the acoustics, but just the overall feeling and comfort of the room where people can come in and just lie down and let go.
Yeah, there's something about being in a circular room, and I'm honored to have David Hickey on the podcast and learning about his favorite life and how this all began. And we just finished a show, and I feel very reset as I've gone to, this is my 3rd show with you. Mm-hmm. And that's typically how I feel afterwards. It's like bringing back to homeostasis, and everything feels balanced, and everyone has a different experience depending where their nervous system or energy's at in the day, but it's great what you're doing, and I'm so glad I got to experience it, and want to hear maybe, how this came to your life. You went on like a bit of a soul searching journey before. You've been doing these concerts for 20 years and all around North America. So maybe you can talk about what led you to this. And
about 1999, I had, I guess, in medical terms, a meltdown, but it was a breakthrough. And really just, looking at my life internally and where I was at, and I was, I wasn't happy, and I don't know at that point if I was ever happy, in my late 20s, struggling to, get by in terms of, where do I fit in. And, a huge part of my life pre-Crystal Journey was, I followed the Grateful Dead around. And, in 1990, I felt like I'd found my tribe. And, when I went to the show, it was like, oh, this is where everybody is, like, where have you been, kind of thing. And that was just kind of by accident. Just, they happened to come to Hamilton, and I went, and that was it. I never looked back. I hopped on the bus, and I never looked back until Jerry died. And I was lucky to have seen over 150 concerts, and
wow.
In the spirit of the Grateful Dead, which is what Crystal Journey is. It was a safe community for the most part. I mean, there were lots of things happening that you can't, the band couldn't control as things get bigger, drugs and liquor and nitrous and all of the things that eventually destroyed the element of goodness, which is, there's none of that at Crystal Journey. It's it's pretty darn pure, and I think it's a reflection of my own journey. I like to keep it clean and real. Not that not that that's your thing. Then it's not what this is. So I think that attracts a different type of person too. Like, people feel safe here to be themselves. But the Grateful Dead certainly allowed me to have an experience of belonging, and I met some incredible people there that I'm still friends with 30 years later, really close with, and that ended when Jerry died. So there was a void that I know lots of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people felt. Some people actually became suicidal because it wasn't just about going to see them and their music. It was about being part of a community that people felt safe with. You could be and do anything you wanted within the perimeters of it being acceptable, where it wasn't breaking the law or you were hurting anybody else. It was beautiful. I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be who I am without that experience. And that definitely is a strong element that led to Crystal Journey. And then, as I mentioned, when Jerry died, big void, 1995. So 1995 to 1999, I was just in this funk of like, can't go to the shows anymore. It's when something like that's like literally just taken away from you immediately, and it was through the death. It wasn't just they stopped touring. They stopped touring because Jerry died, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And over the course of the next 4 years, I just became more lost because where do I go? Where do I fit in now? And Canada's a big country, and it's culturally not that exciting, really. So there was nothing going on up here.
Yeah, you kind of have to seek out the culture in Canada. Yeah,
for sure. And I'm not hockey Tim Hortons kind of guy, so, I've just recently got into the tragically hip. So maybe if I got into the hip, it would have been a little sooner. It would have been different, but.
When did you want to start doing these types of shows, or how did that? How did you know you wanted to do performing? And
I didn't. It wasn't anything I planned. After I came through the breakthrough, a lot of synchronistic things started happening. Different people came into my life. Changed my diet, tried to change my attitude, tried to live a little bit more holistic way of life, and there was a lot of elements behind me, I think, that was leading up to this, that, again, it wasn't anything that I had planned. It wasn't anything that I even had a remote thought about. It just kind of happened after the smoke had cleared from me coming out of the fog that I was in. And it was, looking back, I know we have a limited amount of time, but, there is a long story, but it's a good one. And I believe that everything we were talking earlier, I believe everything that's happened to me in my life, good or bad, or perceived good or bad, has led to this, as all of our lives have. All of the experiences that we have lead us to where we are right now.
It's like you've done enough with Grateful Dead, and then it's like that. Then there's a gap, and it's ready for you to try something new, just 100%. Like all of us, right? You kind of go as far as you can go with that job or whatever, and then just like getting a new shirt, you're like, I just feel like a change, and like get a new haircut. Like, it's good to have change, right? Yeah. So continue. We got time. We can do part 2. And
Okay, cool.
I'm curious that how these specific bowls, and then the gongs and the santours and.
Bowls were first. A trip to your, part of the questionnaire was, have I traveled? Yeah, I've traveled a lot. I've been to, most of Eastern Europe, Middle East, Peru, Egypt, Israel. But on a trip to Turkey, I found myself in a past life, not regression, but a past life experience of being there before, and seeking out all of these textiles, if you were, like the carpets and fabric, and I'm like, man, like this is just, I mean it was beautiful to look at, but it was more than just a visual stimulation. It was like there was something to it. And again, this is it's a little bit longer story than I can tell for this interview, but I ended up buying 100 Turkish pillowcases for absolutely no real justification. Just I was in the shop. The shopkeeper was a great salesman, and then
it's more of a feeling or something.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I just bought all these pillowcases for what for? I'm like, I've got a backpack. I had to go buy a duffel bag the size of a hockey bag to stuff them in, and now I'm traveling around not with just a 70-pound backpack, but with 100 pillowcases. Fast forward, come back, like, what do we do with all these things? And lo and behold, I'm driving down the street one day, I see a for rent sign on a store in Hamilton. Stop, call it. Landlord comes down, sign the lease, and I open a store with 100 Turkish pillowcases, which eventually led to, you can't just have 100 pillowcases, you gotta have some more stuff. So ended up opening like a little bit of a metaphysical hippie shop, incense, tapestries, things like that. But we also, through the company that we ordered from, through a recommendation, started ordering Tibetan bowls and tingshas and meditation items and Tibetan bells and things like that. So that's really, the most practical start to Crystal Journey started with that, because now these are sound instruments that I really had no interest in, nor any knowledge of, and that led to the crystal bowls, because we were now doing health shows in Toronto, which somebody had a booth there and had the bowls. They came into my booth, they saw the Tibetan bowls, and they said, have you ever seen a crystal bowl? And I said, no. And they said, you got to come and check it out. And they played it, and it was like, ooh, here we go, And it really, honestly, at that point, it was just like, okay, now we got to sell these. It wasn't like, oh, now I got to do concerts. It was just like, so we got some crystal bowls in the store, and people were coming in and they were like, what are these? Are they salad bowls or planters or whatever? I'm like, no, you got to play them. And they played them, and they're like,
I feel like it like cleans my ears and just like, obviously it rebalances everything, but when I hear them, it's
if played properly.
If played, okay.
Yeah, that's another story. But
it can be too intense.
They can be too intense.
Yeah, that's funny, because I was about to say, like, sometimes I feel like my ears might be bleeding. Like, not at these shows, but like at other, maybe, and depending on everybody's systems are different.
Sure. Yeah.
But that ears bleeding as, again, like being clean too. I don't know. Like, it feels.
Yeah, it's that's another part of what we can talk. I mean, after 20 years, I'm very aware of like how much sound I should deliver where it's not too jarring for people.
Right.
I think that's really important. It's not something that I ever when I started out would even think I'd be intentionally aware of, but it's certainly become part of the show. Like, don't blow their heads off, because that's not my intention. My intention is for you to leave feeling good.
Yeah.
But people came in the store, and next thing I know, like, they're not buying them. They just want to hear them being played. So that kind of led to this crazy little event of like having bowls and chimes and like all these different instruments that we were selling on a regular folding table. And I did a little concert, and like there were 70, 80 people there, and they're like loving it, and I'm sweating because I'm so embarrassed to like, what am I doing? I have no clue. I didn't practice or rehearse or even think I'd be doing it, but there was such a push and demand for like, you got to play these things for people, and I did, and that I mean, literally that's how it started. And from there, like, somebody was like, can you play at my house? And then somebody's like, can you play at my studio? And the next thing, in the next few months, now I'm like getting in the car and I'm driving, and I get to Thunder Bay, and somebody says, I know somebody in Winnipeg, and then somebody in Winnipeg says, I know somebody in Saskatoon, and then I got, without any shows booked, I got right to Vancouver, and just played along as people phoned people ahead and said, this guy's coming, you got a space for him. I wish it were like that now. No, I got to make the phone calls, but
yeah, it's like that was gave you the leap. it was very organic. Actually, it reminds me of how I started coaching dragon boating. It was the exact same way, as I was just steering the boats, and there would always be a coach. And then sometimes a team wouldn't have a coach, and they say, "Can you teach us how to do this?" And I said, "I guess so. Like, I'm not a professional." And then it just rolled from there. And then it gets to a point where then you kind of take over and you go the direction you want.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, very much like that. Yeah, as you mentioned, very organic. And and then just from there, it was, kind of like the Dead, like the Grateful Dead. There was no looking back. There was no going back. Like, I had no real blueprint or like, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how it's going to be done. I just went with the flow, like, as I went along, and I got more bowls, and, I'd like to think I got, pretty decent at it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have kept going. And
you're very good at it. And
thank you.
Yeah.
It's again, I'll use the Grateful Dead metaphor. Every concert's a rehearsal, like I'm still learning, I'm still pushing myself. I'm still, I want to go further with this. And when you do improvised music, like, there's no limit. Like, I don't have any structure behind what I do. So there's really no room for failure. So I don't have to worry about, I played that chord wrong, or, that was discordant, or somebody's going to be like, oh, what, like, that's not how he played it before. So it gives me, complete freedom to keep exploring, which for me, and again, we were talking about this earlier, as my personality type, kind of dictates, like, I would get bored very easily, I think, if I had to do it structurally. And I probably wouldn't be doing it. But because this just allows me to completely freeform all the time, I'm like, all right, again, I'll go back to the Grateful Dead. People always wanted to go to the next show because no two shows were alike. So you're like, I want to know what they're going to do next. And I know that's part of why people keep coming to my shows. It's like, it's like, what's it going to sound like next time? Because I know it's not going to be like last time, but they're also getting, the element of, like you said, this almost reset of, being balanced again and feeling, like centered and focused, and in a very short period of time. And I know for me, that's the single most beneficial element of what I do and how it affects me, and why I love doing it so much. And we talked earlier too, like, COVID was a big, it was hard on me because I couldn't play. Not only couldn't play for other people to make them feel good in the worst possible time in recent memory, but also for me to stay balanced and feel good. Like, I was lost. And now that I'm back at it again, like, I was like, oh man, like, I need this, I need this to keep moving forward to, and not only that, but the gift that I've been given to do this, to make people feel good. I want, people need this now. People need to be feeling safe again and welcome in a space that is, non-judgmental, and, it's just about the music, nothing else. It's just about coming, as you've experienced, people come, they lie down, where else can you go and just lie down amongst strangers and not be judged?
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm still like, well, that's pretty cool. You're lying beside somebody, almost even falling asleep, and you're okay with that. Like, that's really special, really something, that I don't take for granted or lightly, or still don't notice, and, what this music does for people.
Yeah, bringing people together is a quality you have among your musical abilities too. And yeah, it is great. Do you want to speak on community, or like specific transformations that have happened for people, or is it similar with, like, people say they're reset, or anything stand out of you have a cool moment?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, I believe, on a good level, you need your ego to, feel comfortable to do what you do. And if you want to succeed, there's a level of ego that you need to, keep going. I feel like I've, kept my ego in check of not placing too much emphasis on, it's changing people's lives.
Right.
For one, there's an element of responsibility with that I am not comfortable with. I'm not a healer, I'm not a sound healer, I'm a musician that plays. If something externally happens from that, that is a bonus. Now, that being said, yes, people come who have headaches, migraines constantly, it's gone. during the show, after the show, maybe for a few days. Back pain, emotional breakdowns, breakups, people who've had, spouses, parents, children pass away. They felt a moment of relief where they haven't in months or even years. So that does happen for sure. It's nothing that I would ever say could or can happen. That's not up to me. And again, I don't want that responsibility. I'm not that. I don't have any, I have no practice or degrees or anything in that would allow me to say I can facilitate your healing or this will happen during the show.
Not too many expectations.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that I believe too has been why I've been able to remain doing this for 20 years. To what degree of success, that's open for interpretation. But I believe because I've kept it real. But that's important to me because again, I want to keep doing it. And I believe that if it's not real, then it'll fade away or it'll take me in a direction that is not comfortable. And I need to feel comfortable to do this. So, and again, I think that's a byproduct of what people are feeling. They feel comfortable. They can come. They can expose their themselves, their feelings, and be okay with it, whether they share it or not. In the moment, after the show, in an email or a message, some people do, and when I get them, I'm like, wow, and I make sure I let them know that's a big deal that they let me know, it's not taken lightly. Recently, I've also too been very mindful of acknowledging the audience and how, whether there's 6 people, 60 people, or 600 people, they're all part of the show. Without them, I'm not performing. It's so important that they know that I'm grateful for them being here. I get to do what I love, but they're supporting that. And so that, brings us back to the element of community. It's part and parcel, and there's been lots of talk over the last 20 years of community and communal living and, how do we do it? Can it be successful? And, communes of the 60s, some of them worked, some of them didn't. There's a hierarchy even in those situations where people try to take control and take over and egos bash and, I know the right way, this is the, we're at a point now where I think there's been enough practice or at least enough transparency in what can work and what can't of what we would need to do to really build a strong community. It's not necessarily all live together, supporting one another, absolutely, but also trusting each other, trusting that you're not going to just try to take over what I'm doing, but help it grow with your talent or your ideas, and then me being open to hearing them without being offended or like, you think you know more than I do. Like, again, we talked earlier, there's been a lot of little things, but big things happen lately that have made me look at how I promote what I do, the image that I have, and I'm absolutely open to interpretation to help make this grow to become bigger than it is and what I want it to be. And before, I think I was a little closed-minded to, listening to other people's opinions on, like maybe if you did it this way or, and probably for the most part, they were just trying to be helpful, but I took it as a slight against what I was doing. But now I'm like, as I mentioned to you earlier too, I want to be successful in a big way. I really do. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say that publicly or to the universe. Like I'm ready to take the leap into becoming successful at a level that will be, that can bring this to the masses, which again, at this time is needed. And again, not from my ego that I think I can deliver, I'm the messiah of sound, I just love playing.
Yeah.
But I know how good I feel when I'm playing, and you mentioned it, and how you feel, and what you've talked to other people who've come to the shows. They feel the same thing. So how do we get that out there for people who wouldn't, what is this? And that's a huge thing too. Well, what is this? What the heck is it? Like, I don't know anything about it. And, and how do you explain it to somebody? That's the conversation I had earlier before we started the interview with a woman out in the lobby. Like, how do you explain a life-changing experience in a short conversation to get somebody to, like, come to the show. And that's funny because that's the thing. Like most people just say, you got to come with me.
Yeah.
Come and check this out. And, but how do you get that to the next level of where there's lots of people coming? And, I want that. I want to succeed. I want to succeed to take care of my wife and daughter. I want to succeed to be comfortable every day that I perform, where I'm at my optimal best, just like an athlete or a high-level musician or Hollywood actor, where it's constant preparation and constant mindfulness of like this is the not just the role I'm playing, but this is who I've become, and want to present a certain image that makes people appreciate what I do, and not only that, respect it and know that it's really authentic. So that's where I'm at professionally, and I'm ready for growth. I'm extremely ready, and I'm excited, and I'm 100% committed to whatever it is that I need to do to help this grow and succeed. And I believe it's going to happen. I do.
It's a beautiful health modality and experience, whatever you want to call it. It is something that people can come to and be reset, whether it's just temporary, but it's something that we all have to do anyway. We have to, bring ourselves back to balance. And I like the guitar metaphor, you were tuning your Santours when I got here because they got hot at the hot yoga studio, right? You got to retune the instrument just like we have to retune our bodies,
yes.
Right? And so I come to this today and I feel wonderful, and I can hear the crickets, I guess.
Outside
here.
Yeah.
It's like a lovely environment, and you'll fall out of balance like we all do, and you just come back, whether it's you come to this specific journey is very resetting, it's a great health modality, and anything past that is a bonus. Like you said, doing I had just a brief, whatever you want to call it, the first time it came with just a trance experience. I kind of left the space. That was just a bonus. And this time I came, the woman said she doesn't like to analyze the experience too much, and she said what needed to be burned was burned. And I love what she said, that a fire, right? And I said, oh, that's great. You just, the toxins or whatever, get the flow back going.
Yeah, it's wonderful for that. And, there's no magical formula to it. I think, again, I'm working on myself daily. I'm working to try and become a better person. I'm sure, there's lots of things I've done in my life that I wish I could do over, but that's not, life isn't a do-over. Life is, just make sure you don't do it again. And I have a wonderful wife and a daughter.
Don't do it again too many times.
Not too many times, yeah. And expect a different result, you know. My wife and my daughter challenged me to be a good person every day. So, I called that into my life, and it's, succeeding and working, and it's a very important element to this as well. Is my wife and daughter aren't separate from this, because this is so much a part of my life that they don't expect me to separate it. They love it, even though they're not here. They know I'm here doing what I love, and if I can provide for them and then be safe where they are while I do this, it's, again, that's an element of community, and that to me is, I've had to really work that into what I'm doing. Be okay with being away for a little bit while they're home, because I love being with them, but I know they're safe and they're taken care of. And part of the being taken care of is that I do this for a living, and there's food in the fridge, and the hydro's paid, and the rent's paid, and all of that. So that's where I'd like to take this to a whole other level, where we're all in fear right now of some level of how do we keep providing, not success. Some people are afraid of success, and maybe I was before. I'm not anymore. Just the level of how do I provide, and not only provide, but be abundant in that. And abundance is a word that everybody's level or depiction of abundance is different. I want to provide for my family, and as I mentioned, there's lots of people who have supported me that I'd love to be able to remunerate. So how much abundance do I need for that? I could come up with a number, I guess, and I have, you know, I won't say it publicly, but it's between me and the universe of what, you know, I'd like to see come in my direction so I can redistribute it and also, you know, keep what I need to provide for, you know, my family. And I believe that's going to happen. And I have not been at that level before. I've been in extreme fear of not being able to have abundance, or not even just abundance, but just enough. And I'm done with that too. Like, I've had enough of being in fear of not having enough. And I believe a lot of the world is in that fear. Maybe, you know, in the West especially, you know, the poor countries is another level of discussion of, you know, what they need to survive. But here, you know, we have certain needs that need to be provided for. And I had a conversation with somebody about money, and until we have a different system of economy, that is what we have to live with right now. And you have to, on some level, be okay with it and figure out what you need to live and be comfortable. And that is different for everybody, but I believe it's possible. And I'm not afraid of money, and I don't think it's evil. I think you know, we need it, so it's a necessity. And if that changes, then we can flow into that direction, and that would be nice, but right now it's not, and it doesn't look like it's going to anytime soon. So I give the music, and I receive back monetarily. But within that, I can give back, and I want to, and I'm excited to be able to give back as much as I can to whomever needs it.
Yeah, and you give back, like when people leave here, they carry with
energetically.
them. Yeah.
And there's not, you know, sorry to interrupt, but there's no price you can put on that.
Yeah.
And I know that for sure. Like, you know, like you were joking, like $35 to come and have your whole life reset, you know, like, all right, that's a pretty good deal, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and it is, you know, like, but I'm also, you know, like, you know, what do you put your worth on? Okay, so, you know, again, you know, we've judged athletes for making hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, actors making 20 million per picture. You know, like, if you really think about it, I mean, they have worked really hard to get to that level. You don't get to that level and are rewarded with that if you're not doing at least a decent job, or, you know, putting in the effort to maintain that. Again, it can be taken away when, you know, you start to fade, or, you know, you're no longer as productive as you were. But there's a lot of good people out there who are maintaining a level of excellence, like later on in life. And, you know, again, it's attitude, it's commitment, it's, you know, being mindful. And it's just a formula that I think if you can follow with your heart and be truthful to, then, you know, you're going to be successful.
And you don't always see what goes on in the dungeon or the practice room. Like, I was going to say, like, you've been doing this for 20 years. We always see kind of the end product of the actor or the athlete, and they're at the top of their level. You know, we don't always get to see the transformation and the hard work, like you're saying, to get to where you're at. Because, you know, I saw you play today, I saw you play on New Year's Eve, which, like, shout out to the new year. That's a great time to come to one of these concerts.
Big one in Burlington this year.
Yeah, because I did that to start my new year this year, and this year's been wonderful. It was just a nice way to mindfully ease into the new year. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing, because this is, maybe you can comment, and I can edit this too, but just to be mindful, we're probably getting close to
showtime?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
7:10, oh my goodness.
Yeah, maybe we should pause.
Okay.
Because maybe they're afraid to come in or something.
Yeah, I think so.
But let's pause. We can talk after if you feel up to it.
I do. Yeah, I'll be buzzed after the show. You might get some juice out of me.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome back. We're back.
We're back. Yeah, very cool.
We kind of touched base on the genesis of Crystal Journey and how these instruments came into your life. And I was curious, you mentioned the gongs had some significance to the planets.
Yes.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's, based on the manufacturer, the frequency calculations are based on the Pythagoras figuring out what frequencies each planet had. So, in terms of how they do that, how they calculate it, how they are able to incorporate that into the gong, I can't answer that question. On the back of each gong, there is a label that labels the frequency, whatever it is, 131.5 or, and so on and so forth. And, each gong has a musical note. Mars is D, Saturn is D. The two symphonic gongs are close to a D. So that's kind of what I play in C, D, and A in a Western scale. That's why I have the gongs positioned the way that I do, because it's almost like a scale. Like, even though they're a metal disc, when I'm playing, I'm hearing all kinds of chord changes and frequency tunings, and tonight especially, like the gongs, talk to each other. Do the planets do that? I mean, we don't know. Maybe they do.
Probably.
They probably do. They probably communicate.
They communicate just like animals. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe that based on what I hear when I'm playing. I mean, you can't explain it. It's a feeling. So, but tonight there was this conversation going on that I was privy to and a part of. Was I orchestrating it? I was helping to facilitate it. That's the way I see it. So, yeah. So we have the gongs that I use regularly are Saturn and Venus, the Moon, the Earth, Neptune. This is a new gong that I have, a brilliant symphonic. It's polished to the point where it looks like a mirror. It was actually freaking me out when I was playing tonight.
I noticed you could see your reflection. That
Clearly.
Must be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know if I wanted to look at myself or not. But I was watching, I had my mushroom shirt on. Yeah. I was watching the mushrooms melt. I didn't want to see my face melt. And then Mars as well. So, again, we talked earlier about, how this all kind of started. And when the gongs came into the fold and into the mix, it was just, this elevated to a whole other level, which I'm still in awe of, still really like, is this really happening? Am I really doing this after, almost 2 decades? And, again, tonight was, so good as far as I'm concerned, and everybody here had an amazing experience. And, I can feel that when I'm playing. I can feel if people are restless and they're not quite getting it, or, like, what is he doing? Or, so I kind of...
Where is this going?
Where is this going? And, is it too repetitive, or,
Yeah.
And, to each his own. People have come and gone throughout the years. When I took away bowls and added gongs, some people faded away because they didn't really like the gongs. And then more people came that were like, wow, this is cool. That added another element to what I did, which helped me to move forward creatively. I didn't feel stuck in just playing the bowls, but it wasn't enough for me. And then, then I mentioned, I had a vibraphone. I tried to noodle with that for a while. I think I was pretty good. I was no Lionel Hampton, but it fit, but it was too big to carry around. And then I added the santoors and the harmonica, which again, some people, dug and some people didn't. But a lot of people are, who are coming going, wow, like, how does that work together? And, I always think about, creative flow and, doing things that, aren't necessarily popular, or, when you take something away that people are used to, it jars them. And as an artist, I find that, if you want to move forward, you have to do things that might upset people, or might make them just go, you know what, I don't want to come anymore. I don't like what I'm hearing. But I always think of Bob Dylan, and especially when he went electric, like people vilified him.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to, he had death threats, but he stuck to, like, I have to do this in order for me to feel like I'm evolving.
Yeah,
and that's
to grow,
exactly what this is for me. I need to keep evolving. That's what got me into this. I needed to keep evolving, and wherever I was before this, I didn't feel like it was evolving. And when this came into my life, it exploded that evolution, and it's continued for 20 years. So when I add something, it's only because I need to be free to keep creating, and people will come and go. And that's the, I guess that's the, I saw Elton John years ago, and he came out, he just had a new album out, and it was pretty good. I liked it, But of course, he actually came on stage and said, I know you want to hear the hits, but I'm going to play some stuff off my new album.
Yeah.
So he was like, he was bold enough to say, just take a listen. I can't force you to like it, but I'm going to play this. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was that was kind of a leap to, not just play the songs, but let people know, like, it means something to me, and I hope you appreciate it. But I can't do anything about it if you don't, So that's how I operate. I always give my best, and I hope that people like it and love it, and people keep coming back. So,
yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things there about. I think I've had that happen a few times going to concerts, and sometimes you'll be waiting to hear your favorite song, the hit song, and they might not even play it. I've been to a concert where they didn't even play like their best song or their hit song.
Yeah.
But it's all about it's expectation. You're expecting to hear why you came to see them, and hopefully like they'll play a couple of their old ones if they want to try something new and play the newish stuff. But not always having those expectations, and just reminding yourself to be present and enjoying what they are doing and what they're playing, especially if they announce it and they say, hey, like I've been at shows like we want to play our new stuff and hope you like it. Or just be here and take it in.
And that's a creative risk, that is not always positive. Or at least, not in terms of the band, but, the audience receiving it. So, it's funny, I don't have particular songs that people expect to hear. So it's funny the way you said it. I'm thinking the instruments are the song that they're thinking, I don't want to hear the santur, I want to hear the gongs. Or I don't want to hear the harmonica, I want to hear the bowls, or, any combination thereof. So it's funny, so I get that potential hardship of like putting yourself out there to be creative, and and I guess you have to be ready for criticism. That's part of it. They say criticism isn't a bad thing. It means people are paying attention.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. So.
Yeah, you do this really cool thing with the harmonica that when I bought one of your CDs, and I don't think you'd played the harmonica on the CD.
No.
Which I think was like, there's no harmonica on here. That was my favorite part. Although, no, I like the santurs were my favorite part. But it didn't matter because it was like, this was, at that time, you probably hadn't have added the harmonica or whatever.
Definitely not.
And yeah, I remember I bought the CD and I was like, next time I saw you, I was listening to it on my drive up here. And you said, oh no, don't listen to it when you're driving because it's like meditative, right?
Yeah,
and,
off the road like Homer Simpson in Dreamland.
Yeah. It really is, it's resetting, as we said on part one. I wanted to ask you about, you'd said, some people didn't like the gongs, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does, a lot of times these instruments are very bright and pretty and happy, and then these are kind of the opposite. They're a different feeling, and there are these opposite energies on earth, light and day, and I don't want to say good and evil, but the yin yang, right? And they're very opposite. I was just wondering if you could comment on maybe how they complement each other, or you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because like the first time I heard the gongs, it was kind of dark for me, and like it was maybe a bit intense, and I'm sure people have felt that
jarring.
But learning to like be comfortable with that, and seeing what it can do for me, or whatever, and just letting it be, and not labeling it as dark too.
We were talking in the first part, in uncertain terms. I don't call myself a healer. I don't call myself a sound healer. I don't call myself anything. I even sometimes am reluctant to call myself a musician. It's just I'm just this guy doing this thing. But to answer your question in the simplest way I can without really fully understanding it, I liken the gongs to being shamanic, if you will, whatever that means. The bowls, angelic, whatever that means. And I've always said the centaurs are heart-centered, this very like light, like, ooh, just noodling, playing, playful, I feel good, And again, since adding in the harmonica, there's a whole other element to, a drone effect, which I do have an electric tempura. So, you've got the harmonica, you've got the tempura electric, and the bowls. I mean, my skull is vibrating from all of this, and it's really cool. So, there's a very playful element the way that I'm feeling when I play this, and it's a really neat build up and anticipation to work. The first set I start on the centaur and end on the gongs, and in the second set usually I start on the gongs and end on this centaur. So there's this anticipation in the second set of ending up here and seeing where I'm going to go with the centaur, and it's always like I just always finish going, oh man, what was that? And then there's a whole bunch of, visions that come, and I think about, things that have happened to me, and it's always on this one, that one starts the show and it's like, okay, where's the night going to go? This is like, how is the night going to end?
It's like a movie.
It's,
it starts off
totally.
Like the sun is right. It's like a movie or the day. It starts out the sun is rising, like assuming it's a bright day. It's like fresh, new, and then midway, then these like kind of stormy clouds come in, something different, or just something different comes in that's different from the light, and then the way you finish it, again, you kind of bring it full circle, and that's what I got from it.
Totally, and it's a very good way of describing it, and a lot of people have described it that way. In terms of it being like a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, for sure. And that's how I feel about it too. The gongs, kind of coming back to the gongs, they're this like, even visually, they're like, this shield, if you will. We're joking about Marvel and, Captain America and all that, but there's this shield of, for me, it's like, it's a shield of protection. So, protection from what? I can't say. Musically, there's nothing like these that I've ever heard. And I've heard all kinds of different instruments. Everything is, not every instrument on the planet, but I've heard a good number of, there's nothing like the gongs. And then playing them all together, and when they start pulsing together, and especially in this space where you can really tune into, the subtle frequencies and tones and tonalities and all of that they're, harmonizing with each other, and, again, tonight talking to each other. And, it can be dark, but it, there's points where it becomes tribal too, like this pulse and this beat. And, I mentioned to a couple people tonight, I'm really starting to groove with it too, and not being afraid to, to show my movements, and not be inhibited by thinking, what are people thinking? What is he doing? Like, is he convulsing? Is he, is he going to fall over? This
you can't control that.
I can't control that.
People
now
are going to think
whatever they're going to think,
their mind might do it for them. They
for
don't,
sure. Yeah. And it's fun. Like, I've let go of worrying about what people are thinking. I'm just playing. And since I've done that, people are like, man, I was watching you. You were into it. And I am into it. And the more I get into it, the more I move with it, the bigger it gets sound-wise, the more creative it gets. And it feels so good to move with it. Like I'm not a dancer, but I get that aspect of like moving with the sound. And I've had visions of that, of it, wherever we're going to go with this in terms of it being not just, sound, but, we were talking about Peter Gabriel's Secret World, and there's a concept brewing that is, much more than just the sound. It's a visual aspect, it's a color aspect. And, I'm really excited about, some of the elements that in time, hopefully sooner than later, will be added to this that will make it a full-on production and show, Cirque du Soleil type kind of thing, maybe one day dancers and light projections and all of that. I mean, right now I feel like I've got the music down for 100%, and to take it to that next level, which we were talking about in the first part, nothing needs to be added. Nothing really. But again, how much do you want to evolve, and how far would you like to see this stretched out? I mean, it's limitless, like the universe. It just keeps, the possibilities are limitless, and that's the headspace that I'm in right now. It's coming fast. I mean, obviously, like we've talked in the first part, the last 2 years have been very difficult for everybody, and for people who are creative to be just like silenced and stuffed down and not being able to create maybe live feeds and that, which I tried. It doesn't work for me. I need an audience. I need people here. I need to feel the energy, the reciprocation of that exchange of energy. It doesn't transform on a live feed. So I do live feeds when there's an audience, but to do it solely because there's nowhere else to play, it doesn't work, and I'm not interested in doing that. Not right now, anyways. So
yeah, I took a peek around the room when sometimes I like to do that, because sometimes I'm like, okay, like gotta focus here, get into the meditative zone, and like take it all in, and like that's one fun thing to do, and it's really like a trance. You kind of lose yourself. That's happened. And then parts of today, I got the luxury of seeing 2 of your concerts.
Yeah.
And actually, I guess 4, because there's like breaks in between. And yeah, I tried to be more relaxed this time, and just kind of pay attention to what you're doing and not label it. And yeah, I just peeked around the room, saw people smiling, and some people were dancing, some people were doing some stretching, moving. It was It was good. And I even thought about, have you ever done stuff where, I thought, maybe one event you could have participating people bringing hand drums if it went well with your instruments, or like someone was singing tonight.
Yeah.
Have you done stuff like that?
Yeah, not so much recently,
but over 20 years of
I've
doing
collaborated with friends who are incredible musicians, didgeridoo, piano, drums. To have an open jam, really, maybe, so to speak, wouldn't work with this. It's kind of like like an all-star band where there's 50 musicians on stage, and nobody can hear each other, and it's just this
maybe like the after party. You do your thing, and then you're like, okay, let's have a jam.
Mecca of noise.
You have to be careful. Yeah,
for sure. And again, because to invite somebody in, it can be difficult on the fly because I'm improvising. So if the people that I have played with got such a good ear, and are very familiar with what I do, they're able to comprehend when to come in and when to leave.
Yeah.
If you had a group of people, that would be very difficult to execute, and I would be uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah.
I'd just be kind of sitting here going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Can I even hear what they're doing? Can they hear what I'm doing? Are we all playing over each other?
Yeah. And it takes a certain level of musicianship,
for sure.
And mindfulness, and
And it's not that I want to be totally in control, but in terms of it being a presentation of what people come to expect, they've come to see Crystal Journey. So usually I don't advertise if there's going to be a guest, and sometimes that may or may not be what people want. So I know for me, going into to see a concert, and if there's an opening band, I kind of check them out, and if I like it, I get there early, and if not, then I make sure I'm not there until there's the band I want to see. So that's kind of how I feel this is what Crystal Journey is. So
right on. I have a
for now.
Yeah,
for now.
I have a question, and so a couple questions. It's kind of like what's the instrument? Scottish instrument, the bagpipes. The bagpipes. I always joke like, where does one practice that instrument? I'm
sure it's not easy.
I mean, drums is one thing, like playing in an apartment and you're a drummer or something, but bagpipes and then I mean, even the gongs. So like practice is different too for the gongs, but that's one kind of question. But I liked what you said about them being like shields. Yeah. I never saw them that way until you said that. And the first time I ever heard it, like on New Year's when I came here and you hit it, it reminded me of Mortal Kombat. And like they, in that they have shields and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was
300.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, I bet at some point when you were doing your shows, you didn't have this kind of shield wall behind you, right? It was probably just your kind of Turkish carpets, and then maybe you had some sort of backdrop, like there's these beautiful drawings on the wall. Yes. But when you did add the gongs, like did that change the game? Like did you, because I'm sitting here and it feels, there's a lot of good energy over the years in this space, but you've built it's like a shield of itself, and like I said, the gongs are kind of dark, but then I'm thinking, I'm just labeling them as dark and thinking them more of shields is, we need that energy in life too. You need to be protected from the elements, right? It's good to have the colorful sounds and the joy and like the sparks of happiness in life. And then it's also good to like, it's storming outside, like take cover or any of the elements in life. Or sit there with a good cup of coffee and watch the storm, and feel the ions of the lightning and the fresh air after the storm, kind of thing. Yeah, you need both. Yeah. I don't know if you want to comment on just like when this edition came in. You know what? Changed. Yeah, that's a good question, because for sure, obviously there's a before and after. Not having them, there was obviously no reason to look back. So I was always facing forward. And now, there's this wall, if you will, I guess, of metal, but not, they're not an inanimate object by any sense. Like, I definitely have a relationship with them. I definitely, when I take them out and I set them up, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, good to see you. I'm sorry you've been in the box for a couple of weeks. It's like, but that's where your little house is. So, I absolutely feel safe in this space, and for sure that is part of it. And it could be 360, but it's the way that it is. It feels like that, but this is the center and focus too. Like when people walk in the room and they've never seen anything like this. Like I know tonight a couple people peeked in the door and are like, "What is that?" Like. So I also, like I see them as works of art, it's like something you can have on your wall and have a light illuminating it, and it just be this beautiful piece of art, that just happens to be a musical instrument. Now all instruments, a grand piano is beautiful, a guitar, a well-made guitar is, amazing to look at. Like instruments are, alive. A lot of people call them their friends and their family. That's Alexandrina, who was singing with you tonight a little bit. She said that to me. She said, "Take your guitar out. It's getting lonely." Yeah. You're right. Totally. Like, 100%. What's your guitar's name? Well, it's funny too. Again, just chit chatting after the show tonight.
kind of coming back into the, the inspiration and the drive and all of that. So being a solo artist can be also a challenge as well. What challenges me when I've never been in a band. Now I've had people play with me, so there's an element of like, back and forth and, let's see where this can go. But not having bandmates, I have to push and challenge myself.
Right.
And I've come to really see the instruments as my bandmates. So, they can challenge me, they can push me, they can be like, hey, like a little bit more, like you're taking it easy, let's go, like I'm ready, kind of thing. And I imagine that's what it would be like to be in a band, like, the bass player and the drummer are like, all right, let's pick up this beat, and the guitar players have to follow suit and
keep doing that.
Yeah.
Let's
see where this can go. So it's really cool. I'm, was mentioning earlier, a bit of a control freak, OCD, admittedly. So this works for me perfectly, but I've also come to respect where the instruments want me to take them or they take me. I listen and I play to that instead of trying to control it, which has actually really helped me dramatically to kind of work on letting go of trying to be so much in control. This is, if anything I can say about this, I am not in control when I'm playing, and it feels so good to let go of that element of like, I need to control this. So for an hour or two, I am just completely letting go of any inhibition, any like, oh man, I just, like I have to do this way. No, like it's just all like, let's go. I can't say that in the beginning I tried to control things because I don't know. I think it still just automatically was just flowing the way it needed to, and I was just following suit. So yeah, this is really helping me exponentially to, let go of trying to be in control. And I don't want to be in control. And it doesn't serve a purpose at all anyways, because, all you're doing is really suffocating whatever needs to happen. And, Tom Petty said, most of the things that, I worried about never happened anyways, like, so.
My grandma told me that.
Yeah.
And my mom tells me that. So
yeah.
Maybe she got it from Tom Petty. Yeah.
Maybe you got it from them. So,
yeah.
Or John Lennon, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans,
Yeah.
So, and I know that's what people get from this too, just that, that letting go. You mentioned resetting, that just come and, let go and let the music flow over you. And, again, today I mentioned, I am so tired of overthinking everything. Like my brain is melting of like, enough, like, can you stop? And it's a choice. I mentioned to you, in the morning, I can choose whether or not I want to be in a good mood or a bad mood. And there's no reason to be in a bad mood other than, there might be some external circumstances but again, I can't control that. I can control whether or not I want to be in a good mood or a bad mood. And I am so tired of being in a bad mood. I'm so tired of like overthinking everything, being in fear of not having enough, all of that. Like I'm done with that. And the way that I felt tonight and since the beginning of the tour on Friday is like, we're moving forward now in that idea of abundance and free-form thinking and not buying into that fear factor that is so prevalent out there that is, I know it doesn't matter who or what you are, most people are tired of it. And I'm fortunate that I have an outlet in which to redirect the energy. That was the hard part the last 2 years. I had no way to direct what I was feeling. Mm-hmm. Now, since I've come back, I am not going back to that, and I am going to move forward, and I want to bring as many people with me as I can who are willing to participate in that idea.
Yeah, you have a great quality and skill of bringing people together and doing your music and lifting the vibration and helping people relax and reset. And I think it's really good to find health modalities that not only reset you and also allow you to let go of control. Maybe not like complete control, maybe some things, but things like I think of playing sports. Like when I play hockey, you know, I can do my best, and at the end of the day, there's only one winner. I mean, there's different forms of winning if you tried your hardest, but
you can shoot the puck, but it doesn't mean you're going to score.
and you know, at the end of the day, like we all lose, and you just have to. I don't know. Sports can be a good way of letting go of control, and learning to accept defeat. And I wanted to comment on, you said choosing to be in a good mood and stuff, and I just want to say, and if you're exhausted and you've had a busy week or something bad happens to you, and you know you wake up and the hormones in your brain are really low and your serotonin's low, and you know you need a breather, you need some time alone or whatever, you need to take some time out or come to a David Hickey show, you know. It's okay to tell yourself like, oh, I'm not okay, it's all right, like I'll bounce back in a day or so. And then also make sure you communicate that with, you know, your spouse or whoever you're with. Just say, hey, by the way, I'm like pretty tired and I might be a bit irritable. Like I'm just going to need my space or whatever. Because we were talking about a bit of, we're not the best communicators nowadays. We all get triggered and defensive. And I think it's important to do your best to try and choose to be happy and choose to be in good mood and catch yourself when you don't get into those spinning thoughts. And that's great. And just to add to that too a little bit, you know, choosing to, you know, external circumstances you can't control. So you could, you know, start the morning out saying, I'm going to be in a good mood. And, you know, you could go out into the kitchen and stub your toe and it just like triggers, like, that's it. I'm right back to where, you know, but, you know, for me, the way I'm looking at it is, you know, what mood I choose to be in and how that affects the people around me. And specifically for me, it's my wife and my daughter. So, you know, and they've commented, you know, it's like, you know, it's okay to be in a bad mood, but don't take it out on us, you know, and, you know, I used to be like, well, like if I'm in a bad mood, then I don't care, like how you react to how, you know, and that's not fair. And I think that's, you know, just again, adding to what you were saying, you know, like it's maybe you will decide, you know what, I just don't feel like being in a good mood today, but I'm not going to take it out on the people that I love or who, you know, don't deserve it. And so that's part of what I'm working on too. So let's, you know, maybe you need space. Maybe my wife used to say, go for a walk. Yeah. You know, just go for a walk. You know, I'm not telling you to get out. I'm just saying, you know, like, don't bring that here. And I used to get a little like, oh man, you know, but I get it now, you know, it's like, it's not fair. Like you guys are in a good mood. You don't want me to bring you down. And it's not a nice thing. It really isn't. And I'm trying to work on that. But also, too, by working on it, it makes me better and it makes me feel better about myself and knowing that, you know, I can have some control over these emotions that have like really on occasion debilitated me into becoming, you know, happy or, you know, just not like depressed or, you know, like I've had enough or whatever. Like, yeah, we've all had enough on some level, but you know, like, well, what does that mean? You just stop doing anything? You know, you give up? You know, I have a buddy who's just like, you know, like, don't give up, you know, like just, you know, keep moving forward. There's nothing you can do about all of that other stuff, but you can control your environment. So, you know, and that's absolutely true. You know, what's going on is way bigger than us. And, you know, I think a lot of people are really stuck in, like, they feel like, you know, I've heard it, you know, a million times, like I'm going to fix the world. Like the world doesn't need fixing. We need to fix ourselves. We need to work on ourselves so we can become better versions of ourselves so we can go out there and start to, you know, as a bigger community, support one another and not judge each other. And, you know, really like, how do we, you know, move forward? You know, there's too many too many divisions right now on all sides, all of it. And, you know, nobody wants to talk about anything. And it just turns into this complete and total argument.
And, I don't know what's going to fix that, but I know for me, I don't want to be a part of that. Not that I really was. I've stayed out of, that whole drama, if you will. It certainly has affected me. I can feel the collective energy that it has spawned, and it's powerful. So, every day is, ground out, obviously, don't read the news, just, do your best. And, for me, it's like, I just want to keep playing music and keep focusing on what's good and what's positive. And, you mentioned people coming to the shows. Like, I think it's amazing, after 20 years, people are still coming. I said it tonight, I don't take that lightly. I don't take for granted, that people are going to show up.
Whether it's 60
people, 60 people, or 600. Yeah. I play. I love a packed room, but I can't control how many people are going to be there. And I acknowledge every single person that comes to the show, no matter how many people are there or how few people there are there. So that's how we're going to be able to move forward as a collective.
Yeah, I heard someone say in an interview, our greatest gift to humanity is our own self-realization.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you just said. And you said earlier, like, you love doing this, and people can feel that. Like, every time you play a show, like, you're being playful, but you love what you're doing, and that just emanates. And like, that's so important to find things that you love, and also finding things that, like, if your wife says, like, oh, go take a walk, right? Which is really a good advice at times. And I like to say how important it is to get your heart elevated in the form of exercise or something.
Yes, yeah.
Something, you can go to the gym and you can do squats and lift weights, and that's really helpful too, like resistance training, and that your heart might get elevated a little bit, but sometimes we're not, running, or we're not, and you don't have to sprint, but doing things like running or dancing, that's not just exercise, but it's getting the heart pumping, which then does all these other benefits from you. It passes through blocks in your body. I used to do that before I'd go on stage. The hardest part of when I used to do a storytelling show, the hardest part of the hardest part of the show was starting the show. Because you'd get up there and you'd be kind of tight, and then, 5 more minutes, and once you're up there, like, the blood starts flowing. So before I would start shows, as I got better at it, I would go in the bathroom and I would, like, move my body, and I would, like, you got to warm up. We learned that in kindergarten. People warm up their voices, or you warm up before you play a sport. But doing that on a regular basis, if you can, remind yourself, oh, when's the last time, I was like, my heart got elevated and I was breathing a little bit heavier, and having a balance, and then doing resistance stuff or going for walks where it's different forms of movement.
And that is definitely something that is extremely important. And I know for myself, the last 2 years, I haven't exercised. My wife commented recently, she's like, when I first met you, your posture was great. And over the last couple of years, I'm like, it deflated, really, is what it is. I'm just like,
You also play the harmonica, right? And like, you got the thing around your neck. I don't know if that is.
No, that's,
does it feel okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was just like the whole, like, I'm bored, I'm not playing, I'm like not inspired, I am tired of everything, and it's just like, how far down do you go before you can't come back up? But and again, it's been a choice. Nobody said you can't go for a run, you can't go for a bike ride, you can't breathe anymore. Some people are like, well, maybe that's coming, but I have really, on this trip since Friday too, been really aware of, like, I absolutely need to get in better shape. The whole term mind, body, spirit, whatever that means. But, eat better. Not that I eat terribly, but I need to eat better. I need to be, and the whole concept of breath and breath work, talking to somebody on Friday, it's like, we can go days without food. It's debatable how long we can go without water, but how long can we go without breathing?
Yeah.
And how few of us actually breathe properly. When I'm performing and when I'm playing the harmonica, man, my breath is flowing. Now the trick now is to carry that over to the rest of the day or the days when I'm not playing. And I want to be more mindful of being in better shape. And I'm sure the general population is extremely out of shape right now, mind, body, and spirit. What has motivated any of us to be, even care about that?
Yeah.
I even realized at one point, and this was so important to me for so many years. Like, I didn't even know when the full moon was for the last few months. Last year, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a full moon. I knew every moon cycle, whether it was new or full or quarter or whatever. Like, I was so detached from everything that I didn't even know the moon cycle, and it kind of freaked me out. I'm like, man, I'm really like out of tune, and I'm sure a lot of people felt that way. And I think if I'm saying this out, I'm saying this to myself. I need and want to get in better shape. It's really important right now to, as you mentioned, get the heart pumping and what benefits that does, and breathe better and sit upright, show your higher self, like I'm back. I need to be better than I was before.
What's interesting is a couple times, once during your show today and once during a Tony Robbins meditation, I did a priming, like, morning meditation, and the same thing happened. So during your show tonight, I had my eyes closed, and I think I was sitting like this or something, kind of just like taking it in. And then when I went to sit up a bit taller, hopefully I can explain this. I felt taller. I felt bigger.
Yeah.
And I've done that during the Tony Robbins thing too, where you're sitting the whole time, and at the end he says, okay, now stand up, and you got your eyes closed the whole time. And when I stood up, I felt like a giant. Like, it's insane. And I was like, this is beautiful. And I think it's just you kind of said, there's something bigger happening. And if you looked at us from an airplane, we just little bugs, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you got your eyes closed, and it's just energy, and we are a part of all of this. Like, yeah, those are pretty unique feelings when I sit up and, wow, how I feel like I'm way up in the air right now.
Yeah.
I'm just vibrating.
Yeah.
Like, so it's neat that your music was able to do that. And I always encourage, like, sports are cool, like, or groups running groups, because doing things like, oh, okay, I gotta go to the gym by myself, right? And being a musician who plays by themselves, you have to self-motivate and challenge yourself. So, if you join a hockey team, or dragon boating is a big thing in my life, it's something outside. It's with 20 other people. So you get the fresh air, you get the camaraderie, you get the exercise, you get the sunshine.
Yeah.
It's like, instead of just the gym where you're inside, and not that there's anything bad with gym, but it's what works for you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you're really busy in life, you got to be more specific about your exercise, that maybe you can do an exercise that has a bunch of other encompassing aspects. And if you have a little bit more free time, then you can, be more choosy or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you want to comment? We'll do a segue to the first time I saw you play at the end of the show. How are you feeling right now?
How am I feeling?
Yeah.
I'm pretty good.
You good?
Yeah.
At the end of the show, you said, I never know how to end these things, because you're a nostalgic person. I don't know if you remember saying that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell you something about that, but maybe you comment on it first about
what I meant by that.
Yeah, how like when you finish, you said you don't like to leave this space,
Yeah.
or when you do a show, you're a nostalgic person. You like being in the moment, and it's hard to say goodbye.
For sure.
And so yeah, maybe you comment to that, and then I want to comment on something that I realized about when things end, and something that I noticed when we did finish, or you finished your concert, that happened that was important for when things end. And
Okay.
so yeah, you comment first and then I'll chime in.
Yeah, nostalgia, being part of something, whatever it is, like it could be anything. It could be, a really good relationship, and then it starts to fade, and you break up, and then you long for the way it used to be, and now you're sad because not only have you broken up, but now you have this memory of when it was really good and it felt good. With me with the show, it's there's no breakup, but it's ending. There's this incredible vibe. People are blissed out, like being here. Then, the get in the car and drive,
You're on your phone.
on the phone
Yeah,
or whatever,
checking the news,
something
yeah.
completely opposite of this.
Yeah.
It's hard. I definitely go through withdrawals, and my wife is, she knows when I come home after a gig, probably the next day I'm going to be, I try not to be, but maybe a little grumpy, because it's like last night was like euphoric and heavenly, and like, why wouldn't I want to be in that every day? But but why can't it be like that? I'm with my wife and my daughter. That's euphoric as well, and I can see the beauty in that is just as important and just as special, and I would never compare the two. So that's something else I'm working on. Being okay with when the show ends. Fortunately, this week I have a multitude of shows back to back to back. So I'm like. And I love that. Like that's where I thrive. It's just, the show ends, but tomorrow night I'm playing, Tuesday night I'm playing, Wednesday night I'm playing, Friday night I'm playing. So, I'm like, it's not really ending. Friday night, and I'm driving home Saturday. We'll see how I feel. Like maybe call me and I'll let you know. Like I'm crashing.
Yeah.
I'm not playing tonight. What am I gonna do? Like
You are high strung too, like you said. You've got a
100%.
lot of energy.
A lot of energy. Yeah. So
This is a way to really
redirect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, the nostalgia of something being over, it can be difficult, especially if it was a great experience, which this always is. So, so far, I'm still here. So I've been able to somehow maneuver through and get by to keep going, even though after each show, I don't particularly want it to end, or not necessarily the music end, but leave the space. Being in here after a show, it's like being in the Dead Sea floating, or at a spa or having your foot rubbed, you never want it to end.
Yeah.
So, that's, and I've talked about it, at length with certain people, why the big bands, like the Stones or the Who or, U2 or whomever, imagine walking off stage and just performing in front of 100,000 people. Like, no wonder some of them like took to the bottle or, did drugs. Like, I'm going back to my hotel room and watch Friends,
Yeah.
after that,
Because you're like here, yeah. How do you even come? And then then you're at the hotel, and it's like it's just it's kind of it's not gradual, right?
No, yeah, it's like off stage into the van, back to the hotel, or to the helicopter to the next show. So it's like, whew, the bands that have survived. These are the bands that I love, but like Dylan and the Stones and the Who and all of these bands that have been around for like 40, 50 years, like my hat goes off to them that I'm sure it's been a trip for them, but how they were able to, still keep going after. I know that feeling after a show is like, and after years of doing it, I'm sure they have their routines. I'm sure they have their ways of dealing with it. Drugs or no drugs, drinking or no drinking, like maybe like they get together as a band and talk about the night, and it allows them to decompress. I don't know. I'm not privy to that. So I know for me, like, it's not so bad. Part of, the come down for me is tearing down. So I'm able to, ground out by packing up. So that helps me to be a little bit more mindful of,
moving slow,
moving slowly, and also too knowing that, this isn't the last show. I'm going to play again.
Yeah.
If I don't have another show booked after playing a show, then yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult. But, now I'm back into the flow. I'm thinking about, the shows that are coming up. So it's filling that void now that I'm missing from playing. So
yeah, I think there is an element of course, being present in life, and also creating things to look forward to in life. That's very important.
Yeah.
And like not depending on that for your happiness, but make sure you book some shows, take action in life to make things happen, and then enjoy it, and then take some space from it. And then I was gonna say about the nostalgia, and you chimed in on it about, I love talking about reflection, and I love being in the moment and being present and looking forward to things. I really love reflection. And you mentioned that, you said, after the show, it's hard to end these things. And I noticed how important it is, like you said, that, people start sharing how they're feeling maybe after the show, or they make friends, right? And I recently, like last couple summers, you go away for the weekend with your friends at a cottage, and you're so in the moment, you're having the best time ever, and people are taking pictures. And then part of the adventure is actually like afterwards, when you're looking at the pictures and sharing and like talking about the memories, and oh wow, we that was really crazy that we did this, and oh, we forgot to do that. And that's part of I'll call it the adventure.
Yeah.
And I think that's same with you. It's, this is the moment, and then it's also part of the adventure is what people carry with them, and then what transpires is the word afterwards. And I think that's helped me deal with like when things are ending, is like you said, knowing that this isn't your last show, and then also the conversations that you have afterwards is so. And then at the end of your life, all like when you're, if when you're kind of coming to an end, you always hear the advice, be in the moment. But really at the end of your life, all you're going to have is your memories. And what are you going to be thinking about at that time is your memories. Yeah. And so I love there's a lyric in one of my favorite songs, our only mission is making moments into memories. It's like a good alliteration. Mission, making moments into memories. And I think it's helps with nostalgia.
That's really cool. And while you're saying that, I'm thinking about this age of Facebook and Instagram, and everybody's got a phone and everybody's taking pictures, and while they're doing that, everybody's saying, just be in the moment. Like,
I stopped taking pictures for a while, and then I missed it.
I just felt like, like everything else, as human beings, sometimes we take things way too far, but there's elements of it that are positive. And you're right, Facebook memories, when that pops up and you're like, you stop for a minute and you're like, hey, yeah, that was like last year, or that was, So
thank you, Facebook, for that. I appreciate you.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you're right. And that's brings it back to that aspect of finding balance, where we've become so like and I'm not exempting myself from this. It's like it's all or nothing. Like, so where do we find the balance? Like, it's always taking pictures, always taking selfies, always posting.
No pictures.
It's like, and then you're like, I don't even remember that because I was busy taking pictures. It's like, so, I'm the last 2 years, I got rid of Instagram, which I've since brought back. I got rid of my personal Facebook page, which I didn't really regret, but there was a lot of people on there, which I've had to build back up my fan page, but you know, it was nice to be off that for a while. And, you know, I spent way more time with my wife and daughter. I was less distracted by all of the distractions of the internet and social media. Now, since coming back, I've had to be really mindful of not being trapped back into the overwhelming addiction to it that, you know, takes away from what the potential of it being really positive. And I think that, you know, again, there's this, you know, everybody complains about social media, but everybody's on it. And, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without it, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Most of the people coming to the shows right now, or anything that's related to how I get the word out, is through Facebook, and I appreciate it, 100%. You know, I wouldn't say I love it, but I totally appreciate it. And I try to, you know, just not abuse it in terms of, you know, my personal life and how it interferes with my home life. Before, I definitely, you know, spent way too much time on it, really just like posting something and, you know, but now I'm like, okay, post it and let it go. We can check in later, you know? So yeah, the element of all of that, again, it's balance, right? It's just, you know, it's a good tool, but don't abuse it. So yeah, taking pictures and thinking and looking at them. We do that. We do that with our daughter. Like my wife is always, you know, going to, you know, get photos downloaded into actual photos so we can put them in an album and sit with her and look through it and not be on the computer, you know, because, you know, we don't want her eyes being buzzed out, you know. So, and it's great, you know, she's like, you know, it's helping her as she gets older to remember something that she probably would forget. You know, when she was 4 or 5 and later on in life. So yeah, it's really important, I believe, to, you know, look back with, you know, fondness of, you know, things that got us here.
Especially, yeah, absolutely. Like whether it's journaling, scrapbooks, or just mentally going, rewinding. And that was one of the first meditations I ever learned. Was a great friend of mine I crossed paths with in Portugal. She said it's a great, at the end of the day, just to close your eyes and rewind the day, like go through the whole day and until you're back to in your bed waking up. And you don't have to do that every night, like once in a while, like balance, bust it out and do that little rewind meditation. And it's really tricky with social media. It's designed in a way to grab our attention and reel us in and what was I going to say about the rewinding and the photographs? Kind of blanking now. I forget about especially traveling or the summertime. Summers are so fast paced in Canada because we've been, you know, hibernating, and then all of a sudden all this stuff is happening every weekend. Like you look at your weekend, your plans for the summer, you're like, oh, barbecue, boom, boom, concert, boom. And then you look at the winter and it's just like, like nothing's happening.
Getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so when that fast pace is happening, you know, how often do you go to a campfire Friday night, then Saturday you go see a band, Sunday you're at another barbecue, Monday you're back to work, and then the next Friday you're at another concert, and then you forgot the whole weekend. It didn't get digested. Yeah. And it's a great metaphor. Like when you eat food, it's, if you can, like to sit and let it digest before you're on to doing the next thing. Yeah. And it's just like an experience. If you have a significant experience, make sure you don't move on too quickly from that. And if you do, then, you know, a week later, try and just mentally check back in with it. And otherwise it doesn't really get downloaded or digested. Yeah, that's been helpful in my life too. Journaling is amazing.
100%.
You had a wild day, eh? You want to say anything?
No, I appreciate you asking me to do this. For those I said who know me, I love to talk. I get that from my dad. My dad was a public speaker, a Toastmaster. So, I love telling stories. I think you're
a great storyteller.
I do. My wife says I embellish a lot, but what's a good a story needs some embellishing to make it really, no white lies, but just like, juice it up a little bit.
It's true.
You
Yeah,
know,
there's
for
such a art to storytelling.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were 40,000 whales on the fishing trip we were on. Like, no, we didn't see any. But we were on the trip. But no. So yeah, I just appreciate being able to share, and that's part of how I've come to. I see that as another aspect of what I do, and also an aspect of where I'm going. To share my feelings, tell people, not just what they're going to experience if they've never experienced it before, but like, this is, not necessarily how I got here. I mean, it could take up the whole night talking about, how did I get here? But just, not just coming into the space and going, welcome, good night, thanks for coming. Like, there's always something I have to share, and so it's part of what I do. So, I appreciate today and it being more in depth, getting out a little bit more of, what's going on. And, the timing of this is absolutely perfect in terms of, what is transpiring for me personally and creatively. So, again, I don't believe in coincidence. It's all synchronistic. So, this is part of it. This is part of the, evolution of moving forward for Crystal Journey. This, talking to you this afternoon and tonight and sharing it and, giving people a little bit more insight into, who I am and why I do this. And it's always growing. I'm, I'm 54 and, what point am I at my life? Am I past that midway point? Am I, I don't know. So I am trying really hard to just be, enjoy more than I have and be grateful for what I have instead of pining for things I don't have. And another big thing too is I've been letting go of a lot of stuff. Again, for those who know me personally, I've let go of a lot. I've done a few purges in my life, like gotten rid of stuff, and people are like, "Oh, you did a purge," and then and then another purge, and then but the last purge I did, I've gotten my personal belongings down to very few, and that's including crystals and instruments, and it feels great. I think it's really part of lightening the load and being able to be ready for what's coming and not, bringing everything with me, and, my wife is not materialistic, so she doesn't have a lot of stuff. And my daughter's stuff is just, it's meaningful to her, but, it's toys and puzzles and things. So, I really believe too that the lighter we are right now, the better off we'll be when things come calling. So we're not too nostalgic in holding on to what could prevent us from moving forward. I know that's something that I've been mindful of and working on. So, yeah.
That was my favorite part of the interview right there. That was really beautiful. Yeah. Like, it's true. You have to be open to the only constant in life is change.
Yeah.
And so as you go throughout your life, you don't know what's going to come into your life. And if you're carrying too much, it's just going to go by you. And you're going to have to wait for the next pivotal thing that comes into your life. And so it's helpful to do a check-in and be self-aware of what am I carrying right now that I can drop here or give to somebody else. And
Yeah.
I really like that you tell stories too during your shows, whether at the beginning and then you do your music and then at the end. It's a kind of a neat way to close the show, and you're a good storyteller too. That's great that your dad had that impact on you.
Yeah.
And utilize that. Like, you're a great musician, and then utilize your storytelling skills too, because it's so powerful and impactful to tell stories and get people laughing. We don't laugh enough in life, at least in Canada, or Canada's a big place, but yeah, it's
Yeah, we've forgotten how to laugh, and we're too serious. And I've been way too serious for too long. Like,
Yeah.
it's tiring. Like I'm like, really, like I'm finding myself now just getting annoyed with myself of like, again, I really, I appreciate how patient my wife and daughter have been with me through this period of, but I'm seriously done with all of that. Like I want to enjoy life. I want to, I want to be happy. And I can't ever say, I don't think I've ever said that before, that I actually want to be happy or not grumpy, And it's funny, people have this, persona of me of like this guy who meditates and I must be enlightened and like, oh, you're so mellow. It's like when my wife comes to the show and she hears people saying that to me, she just starts laughing. She's like, you don't know this guy, but I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say, yeah, I've been grumpy. Yeah, I've been like sometimes I've been a bit of an asshole. I've been, not nice. I've been, like down on the world and, like really angry at the world and all of that. And like, I'm done with it. I don't want to be like that anymore. It's physically tiring. And that's a lot of people have been saying that, they're physically tired, but it's because we're mentally tired and it's wearing us out. And I'm done with that. So whatever I need to do, and by no means am I even like remotely at the starting line of that, but I'm aware of it and I'm consciously saying it out loud that, whatever I need to do to, be happier, be more joyful, be more, present, then I'm going to work really hard at doing that. And I know that the music helps with that, but I also know that will help the music as well. And wherever this needs to go, and the people that are going to come to the show to receive this energy will benefit from that greatly. The better I am with myself and the healthier I am, it's going to exponentially make other people feel that as well. And that is so much a part of the show. And, just before we end, I just want people to know that, this is a place where you can come and just be yourself. And there's no judgment. There's nothing. There's no expectation. You don't even have to talk. You can come and just find your spot and lie there and receive and leave quietly. Or, you can share, or you can talk to people there at the show. And it's always been, like that's a... it's a funny thing, right? Like, so without people, there's no show, but that's part of the show that's really important. Going kind of back to the Grateful Dead, that was that was just as important as the music itself, was being in a community of like-minded people where you could just be yourself and, walk by a stranger and, start up a conversation, whether it was about what do you think they're going to play tonight, or were you at the show last night? And they could be from California and you could be from Newfoundland, like that's what Crystal Journey is as well. And I know that's a byproduct of that. That's something that maybe I subconsciously wanted to recreate that safe space for people to come and be a part of. And, now that I'm, facilitating that, or at least trying to make that happen, it's like it's really I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that people are coming, and like I said to somebody tonight, like you heard about the show, you said, I want to go to that. I may or may not have to take the night off work. I have to get a ticket. Like I'm driving to the show. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't take that for granted. Every person that's here, I know they've made an effort to be here. And I know what that means, I know that I get excited to go see a concert. I know, it's like I have to, plan it out to get there. So this really special what that is for me, seeing that happen with Crystal Journey.
Beautiful. And you never know who's going to walk
no.
through the door.
No.
And for anyone in life, you never know who's going to walk
You don't
around
know.
the corner, and be open to receiving and having a conversation. And I was going to say, we've really lost that community in life. However, I'm going to change my word and say, like, we've just misplaced it.
Yes.
And I'm guilty of it myself, of not being more friendly with my neighbors.
Yeah.
And I always think, like, you know, if you're buying a new house, the first thing you do is go introduce yourself to your neighbors before you lose that time span of like the 2 weeks. Go talk to them, bring them a bottle of wine and say, hey, we just moved in, let's be friends.
Yeah.
And if you need me to look after your cats, I'm here for you. And that's like one easy thing. But yeah, I think that's neat at concerts, how like you instantly feel like these people listen to the same music as I, and you have that in common, and you can be yourself. And I think that's what we all want in our communities, is to be able to talk to people on the street and trust people and just be open, and back to communication is just being open for communication. Yeah, that was, I'm honored to have this conversation, and
thank you.
Shout out to Sugar Ridge.
Yeah, 100%.
And Liz, the owner. For letting us do this in such a beautiful space. Yeah. And then David Hickey's got some shows coming up in the next 2 weeks. You can find David Hickey.
Crystaljourney.ca.
Crystaljourney.ca.
Or David Hickey Crystal Journey on Facebook, and David Hickey Music on Instagram.
Perfect. And if you can't catch the next couple of weeks, I'm sure you'll be playing throughout the summer.
Yeah, festivals coming up. Coming Home Festival, Soulshine in September. I'm playing in Niagara Falls, or Ridgeway, down near Niagara Falls in June. A show in Grand Bend, Goderich area for the solstice on June 18th. And, you know, a bunch of other shows here and there as well. But it's all on my website, and the Facebook page always updates where I'm going to be.
Right on. It's kind of neat. You like some of the small towns too. It's like,
where
are we right now? We're in the middle of nowhere.
We're in tiny township near
and it's
Midland.
Beautiful here.
Oh my God, it's just magic here. I always kind of joke that I'm the Stompin' Tom Connors of the gong world. One more Sudbury Saturday night. I've played everywhere in Canada. Like just every province, every territory. Places nobody would go, and some of my best turnouts were in the middle of nowhere, where nobody goes, but everybody comes out because you show up. So I hope to get back at that at some point as well. So I miss that.
Yeah, you will. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and thanks for listening to David Hickey, his favorite life. Yeah,
you got it.
Hopefully you can carry this with you, and enjoy and create a nice life.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Peace.
Woo. All right, friends. Hopefully you learned something new. For more information on living your favorite life, head over to yourfavoritelife.com to connect and explore some personal development services. If you feel like leaving me a review, I'd love to consider your feedback. And if you resonate with this energy, follow, share with a friend, and subscribe. Remember, create a nice life. Be kind, be curious, and be creative. Catch you on the flip side.